So I've been asked a few times if I do haul videos, and I've never done one. I don't really do haul videos. I only focus on what I sell. But now I'm getting back into sourcing again. I've been going to some auctions, and I was just in an auction on Friday. Spent $69, which isn't a lot for me. Didn't really get too much, but I figured I'd show you what I got. And the auction is about 20 minutes from my house. It's nice and close. It's kind of an odd auction. They run two rooms at the same time. One room has kind of lower end stuff, but sometimes there's some sleepers in there. And then the other room has more of the higher end stuff. And they do a lot of things on trays, where instead of boxes, they put stuff on trays. Kind of sometimes it's grouped by theme, so they'll have all like silver on one and all, you know, a bunch of bronze candlesticks on another, and they basically auction things off by the tray. And sometimes things don't sell. If somebody doesn't want the tray, they'll combine trays and they'll say, okay, going with that tray is this other tray. So you can end up with quite a lot of stuff, sometimes a lot of things you don't want. And I really like it because I end up getting some really interesting things. Anyways, this is the first tray here. I have it here in a box. They don't let you take home the tray. Anyways, I was after this lot because of this perfume, and mainly this one right here. There's a Givenchy Paris. It's a mostly full bottle. It's a vintage, and that there is worth about $70 or so. And I was very excited to get this whole tray right here, everything that you see in here, for $10. And so there's a handful of other vintage perfumes. I've looked up a lot of these, and they sell between $30 to $40. And then this here is just junk. And then this here is probably also junk. This is White House soap, which I'm sure is just a souvenir. And then there's a compliment of the White House bathroom towel, which I'm sure is also just a novelty gift. And then a International Friends of Animals or something like that compact mirror, which somebody is trying to sell one of these for about 25 bucks. And then finally, some soap, and this is worth about $15 to $20. So all told, this lot here will probably bring in over $100, more like $150, maybe $200. So not bad for 10 bucks. All right, so this is the second tray, which is all boxed up, and we have candlesticks. And these are actually, a lot of them are push-up candlesticks. They're actually pretty old. So this is one pair right here. This one actually has a note in it which says that these were given to Grandma by a Lewis. Given to Grandma. Candlesticks given to Grandma by Louis Hodnott. Louise Hodnott. So they were Grandma's. So I guess they're old. This one here is probably the nicest one in here in terms of aesthetics and weight, but there's only one of that. Here's another one. This is actually a push-up candlestick. It's got the plunger on the bottom there. And there's its pair. And then these ones here are kind of neat. These are more Victorian. They have an alabaster and a nice kind of bronze inlay thing going on with them. Interesting pieces. And there's a match for that one. And then the thing I was actually interested in on this lot was this owl. Got a felt bottom, and it flips open to reveal a magnifying glass. So it's a desktop magnifying glass with an owl. And I buy anything at auction that has an owl on it. And not just one magnifying glass with an owl, I got two. So here's the other one. This one here does, no, this one doesn't have a mark on it. And then there is a goose clip. I guess you would nail to your wall and use it to clip notes onto. I don't know. This one has a maker's mark. And then finally, the last two things are two glass candlesticks. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 candlesticks, and then one odd one. The owl magnifying glasses and a goose clip. all for 10 bucks. And these candlesticks typically go anywhere from $20 to $45 a pair. These kind of Victorian ones I'll probably put up for a little bit more. So this here, and this little guy, I saw one person selling. He's quite heavy. Another person selling one of these for around 45 or so, which seems to be what I would expect that to go for. So I would say out of this tray lot here, this probably about $125 to $150, and it cost 10 bucks. And another tray lot, and this one here I didn't really want, but the way my auction works is if there's no interest in the first tray, they will basically bring up another tray to kind of sweeten the deal. So that last tray that had the owl in it is the one I really wanted, but they ended up bringing up this tray as well because no one was bidding on it. And so I ended up getting both of those tray lots for $20 total, so $10 each. And this one here I didn't really want, but it's got some interesting stuff nonetheless. It's got this great copper kettle, which is quite heavy. I didn't want it because I did notice that it has a bit of detachment here. Right there, the handle's being detached, but otherwise this is an amazing piece. It's in really good shape. I didn't really look to see if it had a maker's mark. I'm sure even with that defect I could sell it, or maybe even try to repair it. Also in here are a couple of candlesticks. These look like India import. They don't look like they're terribly old, but they are kind of interesting. They are casted. So there's a set of those. There's a couple of salt cellars in here. I believe that's what these are. These are larger than ones I'm used to, but they have some chips and dings in them, so they're not really that great. I'm not sure if these are sellable or not. There's the other one. They're not matching. They're just two odd pieces. There is this kind of figural carved wine stopper thing. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody wants this. These are the kind of things you think you can throw away, but then you start looking them up and realize you could probably get 30 bucks for it. So who knows? I'll have to check on that. It's a little silver plate shot glass, I guess. And this one does have a maker's mark. I think this is for making tea. I don't know. I don't think it's worth anything. Probably not going to sell this. Same with this. I don't really know what it is. This is the kind of stuff you get in box lots. And this looks like a Tissot, maybe a butter stamp. It's made of terracotta. Possibly sellable. And a Millefort paperweight. It's kind of cool. It's not signed, but it's interesting, and I'm sure this could get 20 to 25 bucks. So there it all is. Didn't really want this tray lot, but after all is said and done, I'm sure it'll be profitable. So 10 bucks for this. And the last thing I got is these fireplace tools, and these were in the other room, so I had to leave a bid on it. And that's what I typically do at this auction, is I go around that first room and then leave bids on things, and then at the end of the night kind of see what I won. And sometimes I get lucky and sometimes I don't. These here, I put a bid of $50 on them and I ended up winning them for $30. And the thing I was after was these fireplace tongs, which look to be genuinely old, and I think they have some reasonable value in them, probably about 90 bucks. And then there's also these tongs, which are not as old, but these are Victorian, I believe. And these would have been part of a coal set. I'm not 100% certain. And then there's a couple other pieces here. And the funny thing about these is they all seem to be from different sets, but they all seem to be very interesting. And then of course there is the rack itself. And I might actually keep this rack because I have a fireplace tool set that I like, but I don't really like the rack. So I might see if this will work. And then this also came with this fireplace fender, which is basically a fence that goes around the fireplace. And I really didn't want this because it's so big, and I almost left it there. And then I thought maybe I'll just take it home and scrap it, or at least, disassemble it and use it for a project or something. It is made out of pretty heavy bronze tubing. And I did some research on these, and turns out they sell for about 100 to 200 bucks. I had no idea. And these have kind of a nice decorative treatment. They have this kind of acorn finial on top. And not really sure the period for these. Some of them were being advertised as kind of a arts and crafts period, late Victorian. So I got to do a little more research, figure out how I'm going to ship it, if I'm going to ship it, and kind of glad I didn't leave it behind. Okay, so this is the last lot, and this didn't come from the auction from this Friday, but one I went to a couple Saturdays ago. And it's just a very laid-back auction about 40 minutes from my house. It's a nice thing to do on a Saturday morning, only lasts a couple hours, very family friendly. And these here are silver kind of figural food skewers, or meat skewers, or something like that. And these were lotted up in lots of 6 or so. So there was 2 bundles, and I paid, I think, $14 each for the bundles. And there was one more, and I kind of regretted not bidding on that last one. I bought the 2 that were animals, and then there was one that was more kind of abstract shapes and kind of fleur-de-lis and stuff. And I went on a gut with buying these. I thought that they would probably be worth something and that people would collect them, and they are worth something. People have sold this particular guy here, the lobster, for about 45 to 75 bucks. And I've seen these go on some of the kind of higher end auctions, online auctions, not eBay, for about $300 for a set of, I think, 6 or 10 of these. So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to list these individually or if I'm going to just put them up at a big lot and see if I can get 250 to 300 bucks for them. I think that is what I'm going to do, just list them as a big lot. There's 12 of them here, which is a nice number for somebody who really wanted to use these as, you know, part of their food prep thing or whatever. And the reason being is I think these are kind of long tail. I don't think that people are really seeking these out. So if I listed them individually, I'd probably sell 1 or 2 and then probably have to wait a really long time to sell any more. So basically I paid about 30 bucks with the auction premiums on these and hoping to make about 200 to 250 on them.